My name is Oppenheimer. I was born in Hannover, Germany, and I was deported to the Riga Ghetto in December 41. Yeah, in December 41, and I was liberated in March of 45. We were deported to the Riga Ghetto, my mother and me, including my brother. And the Riga Ghetto was no picnic, in as far as they shot the people like they shot pigeons in the park nowadays. The SS would walk around in the ghetto. We worked very hard. I wouldn't even call it work. We slaved. Food was next to nothing. And when we got into Riga, the train took 3 days. If I remember correctly, my parents or my mother had to pay for the trip in the railroad to get to Riga. And we had no idea where we were going. They said we would go to the east. We thought it was Poland. But it turned, my mother also had to take, by the way, a lunch along or whatever food we desired. There were no toilet facilities in the train and nothing. We were 1,000 people on that transport. And when we arrived in Riga, the SS was standing there and they gave us a choice either to walk or go in their trucks. So we chose to walk because it didn't seem so clear if we would walk, if we would ever get there. It was quite a walk, several miles. So as we walked, we got into this very old neighborhood in Riga, the Liberated, and my brother, let him rest in peace, he perished a week before the liberation in Dachau. We were separated. But while we were the three of us in the ghetto, mattresses were put on the floor. He found Hanukkah candles. It was a Hanukkah time, the Jewish Christmas. And we knew there were Jewish people. The food stood frozen on the kitchen tables. The Jews were taken out 1 to 3. And eventually we found out that the Riga Jews, mainly the men, were in a separate ghetto than we were. There were more men survived than women from the Riga Ghetto. The men were separated, with barbed wire separate, and the women were separated. And the German Jews lived together, the families. I still don't understand why we were sent to Riga and they were killed. They could have killed us right away. We figured maybe the reason is we still don't have the answer. Maybe we spoke German. I have no idea. But the situation was horrible. And if somebody brought a little piece of bread in the ghetto, they were put with a big poster in front of them that I committed this and this, or I exchanged something for bread, even if it was a piece of dry bread. And it was just horrible. We went to work and the children and parents were left, older people were left in the ghetto. By the time we came home, the ghetto was empty and they were all killed. Or they told us, or they told the old people, they're going in fish factories, but that was all, they were pure lies. Nobody ever reached those things. And there was no gas chamber in Riga, but they had gas vans. So people were just put in the vans and they were killed. And I myself had an experience. I worked was a big, like a warehouse, and a young woman was working in there before I came. And she said after a while, why don't you take something home? The merchandise there came back from the front for the soldiers. They were bloody and you name it. And she said, why don't you take something? You can't live on the rations what they give you. So I took a pair of socks and I found a safety pin and I put it, I still had my spring coat from Germany, and I pinned it in the sleeve. As we were ready to leave to meet the other people to go back into the ghetto, a guy from the railroad took us into his office. I didn't know why. And he made the other woman get undressed. They must have watched her that she took something. And a lot of things fell out of her girdle all over, and she had a picture. She was a young woman, and she was very upset, and she had a picture of her husband with her. She said, "I won't do it again, and don't report me," etc. And I stood there. I had the guts. I don't know how I had the guts. I said, "Can I go and meet the other people to go back in the ghetto?" And they looked me up and down, and the coat I hung over, I couldn't put it on because I had the socks in the sleeve. So when I met the other women, so then I met a woman that was also from Riga, from the ghetto, and she was very known to exchange goods for food. And she had a big bag with her. It was a big yard, and a large yard, and there were quite a few working places for the people that were in the ghetto to work in. And I said if she wanted some socks, I have socks with me. So she opened the bag. I said, "No, don't do it here. Let's go in the toilet." And these were not toilets what we are used to. It was just a wooden box and a board on top. And I gave her this. She was going to throw it in the toilet. I said, "No, she was going to put it in her bag." I said, "No, don't put it in your bag." And when we came out of the toilet, one of from the railroad guys, he saw us, and he made her open the bag. So it was my luck that she didn't have it in the bag. But by the time we reached the ghetto, it was a few miles away. We walked. That woman was shot already in the ghetto. I mean, this was our daily life. And my father got very sick before the deportation. And we had to live at the end, what used to be the Jewish school, which my late brother and I attended. And he had a heart attack there. And then one of the Jewish fellows took him in their room. Everybody had just one room per family. Later on, they were put 10 or so other people towards it. And this particular young man was hung. And we had to watch that. While they hung him, plus we had to stare at it, and they hung for 3 days each person. It was just a horrible life. I mean, we were only lucky that there was a school, and there were toilets in the yard, and we had toilet facilities, but otherwise we had no basic facilities, nothing. And I remember one time they took us to an open lake. I don't know, everybody could watch us, and we had to get undressed and get washed. We had no choice. And what was the worst part is the lice. I think it was worse than the hunger. We had no food, or sometimes the ghetto smelled. They made soup from fish heads. It was just a horrible life, and very, very scary. And from there we went to they also built a concentration camp in Riga. And we had to sleep in bunk beds, but 2 or 3 in one bed. And we lived in constant fear, and it's undescribable what a human being can go through. I still can't believe what I survived, or the few others. Percentage-wise, only a few people survived. And like I said, I believe I just said it, when we came back to the ghetto, the children that were left and the old people were gone. And they said they were shipped into fish factories, but those were all lies. It never was true, because also the mass graves were closed by our own Jewish men, and they were told not to tell anybody, otherwise they would be shot or killed. But word got around, and that's how we found out what really happened to the majority of people. They were just killed. It was unbelievable. And from there came the concentration camps, was even worse to a certain extent. But it was just a horrible life. I still don't understand how anyone could survive, including myself, and how people, the Germans, how one can do that to another person, because these people must have been married too and had family. I mean, they had no feelings, no nothing. I just hope it will never, never repeat. It was just horrendous. The hunger was terrible, but I think the lies were worse. And that's basically the whole story. It was just a horrible life.